Recently, I came across something kind of interesting, and it revolves around the GLP-1 medications, and not because of weight loss, but because it touched on something that I've noticed for years in the ER, and I'm talking about alcohol. I've probably asked every patient I've ever seen some version of the same question 1,000 times in the ER. Do you smoke? Do you drink? Or do you use any drugs? And what's interesting is that a lot of people hesitate when you ask about drugs, not surprisingly. Most people say they don't smoke, but alcohol, that's different. Because the web of alcohol runs pretty deep in our culture through celebrations, vacations, stress relief, dinner, weekends, weddings, social events, loneliness, boredom, and heartbreak. And for many adults over 50, alcohol has simply been part of our lives for decades. Now, let me be clear up front. This is not a moral lecture about alcohol. If you drink, that doesn't make you a bad person. That's not this conversation. And quite honestly, I'm not a teetotaler myself. But as an ER doctor, I've seen a disproportional side of the consequences of alcohol over the years on a fairly regular basis that most people don't. The falls, the DUIs, the broken relationships, pancreatitis, the atrial fibrillation, something we call holiday heart, the high blood pressure that doesn't seem to budge, the weight gain, fatty liver, sleep disturbance. And the one thing that I've learned over time is this: a lot of people struggle with alcohol a lot more than they admit. Not necessarily alcoholism, not waking up craving a drink, but a version where alcohol slowly becomes tied to stress relief, reward, routine, or emotional survival. And what's fascinating right now is that many people taking GLP-1 medications, they're reporting something unexpected aside from weight loss. Some are saying, I just don't think about drinking anymore. Others say, I stop after one drink. Some say alcohol suddenly feels less rewarding. And honestly, at first, I thought this was mostly anecdotal, but we're actually starting to see research exploring whether something biological is happening here. And if it is, this could be something really important for public health conversations over the coming decade, because in addition to weight loss and diminished food cravings, we may be talking about reward pathways, addiction, and the biology of compulsive behavior itself. Now, before we talk further, let's talk about what these medications are. GLP-1 medications, they were originally developed for type 2 diabetes. Drugs like semaglutide and tirzepatide, they help with blood sugar and slow gastric emptying, increase feelings of fullness. Now, that's part of the reason that people lose weight on them. They eat less, they feel satisfied sooner, and they often stop obsessing about food. And that phrase, stop obsessing, may be a clue to something else, because many people taking these medications, they describe something beyond appetite suppression, a reduction in what researchers called food noise or food chatter, constant thoughts about eating, cravings, constant reward-seeking behavior. And so researchers are asking if these medications affect reward pathways related to food. Could they also affect pathways related to alcohol? And that's where this gets interesting. A recent randomized clinical trial published in JAMA Psychiatry looked at semaglutide in adults with alcohol use disorder. Now, this was not a massive definitive trial, and these medications aren't FDA approved for alcohol use disorder right now, but the findings were still pretty fascinating. Compared to placebo, semaglutide reduced alcohol craving and reduced some heavy drinking behaviors. The participants didn't necessarily stop drinking entirely, but many drank less than they typically would during drinking episodes. Some had fewer heavy drinking days. And importantly, cravings reportedly decreased. That matters because cravings are often the engine that drive drinking to begin with. And for all of my years in the ER, I can tell you something that I believe to be true. Most people who struggle with alcohol are not stupid. They're not weak. They're not unaware of the consequences. Many already know that alcohol worsens their blood pressure, ruins their sleep, increases their weight, worsens their diabetes, anxiety, and depression. And sometimes it damages their relationships. They know all that. But cravings, they don't always respond to logic. And that's what makes addiction so complicated. So I think this could be important because for a long time, addiction has been viewed almost entirely through a lens of willpower or as a character flaw in those dealing with it. Just stop. drink less, have discipline, use moderation. And those aren't unreasonable responses. And personal responsibility does matter, but biology matters too, because some people appear to have much stronger reward responses than others. Some people seem to be able to quiet cravings more easily than other people. And if GLP-1 medications are truly affecting reward signaling in the brain, then we may be looking at addiction differently in the future. Not so much as an issue of willpower or self-control, but at least partly as a biological process involving hunger, reward, and dopamine signaling, impulse control, and reinforcement pathways. That doesn't remove responsibility, but it may actually increase understanding as to why some people seem to struggle more than others. Now, another thing that really stood out to me in this study is this. Some of the participants weren't actively seeking treatment for alcohol addiction. They weren't all entering rehab saying, "Help me stop drinking." Some were simply taking semaglutide and their drinking behaviors started changing. And that raises a huge question. How many people in society are quietly struggling with alcohol-related behaviors that never rise to the level of alcoholism? That gray zone drinking where I drink every night but I'm functional, or I deserve this after work, or I can stop anytime, or I only drink wine, or only drink beer, or I only drink socially. And then 20 years later, you see the high blood pressure, sleep apnea, visceral fat, fatty liver, type 2 diabetes, memory concerns, and sometimes dependency. And after 50, alcohol just hits differently. Recovery changes, sleep changes, metabolism changes, muscle loss accelerates, blood sugar regulation worsens. And because of that, alcohol itself can sabotage healthy aging. Now, I want to be careful because this study was relatively small, it was short term, and it doesn't prove that GLP-1 medications are a cure for alcohol dependency. And to say so would be irresponsible. These medications also have side effects: nausea, vomiting, constipation, potential muscle loss, cost issues, and there's still unanswered long-term questions about GLP-1s. Plus, alcohol use disorder is complex. It can involve a history of trauma, mental health issues, social environment, stress, genetics, and loneliness, none of which will disappear with a simple injection. But still, I don't think these findings should be dismissed, because if larger studies continue to support what this study found, the implications could be enormous, impacting the occurrence of liver disease, accidents, cancer, hypertension, obesity, diabetes, relationship problems, and premature death. And let's face it, many adults over 50 have spent decades fighting some level of unhealthy relationship with alcohol, quietly, privately, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. So if future medications could reduce that constant pull of craving itself, that would be a major shift in medicine. Many reward-driven behaviors share overlapping pathways: food, alcohol, nicotine, compulsion. These systems overlap more than people realize. I'm not saying GLP-1s are the answer, and sometimes formal addiction treatment is needed. But if biology turns out to play a bigger role than most of us realize, that doesn't erase accountability, but it may reduce shame. And shame rarely helps people get better. So if these medications eventually prove capable of reducing cravings, even modestly, that could potentially help a whole lot of people. And that could be a very good thing. If you missed this last video on peptides, YouTube is serving it up next. As always, thank you so much for watching, and please share this video with someone you feel would benefit from watching it as well. I hope you're having a great week. Get good sleep, eat well, stay strong, stay positive, and I will see you in the next video.